Okay, welcome to Big Buck Canoes. This tutorial is about how to fit your outer stem onto the canoe after the hull has been built. Basically what I did is I took the stem and placed it on the canoe and then traced out a line on either side of the stem to mark where I'm going to cut with my chisel. So after marking with a pencil, I removed that stem, and then it's critical here that you take a knife and cut along the edge, the outer edge first, because then as you chisel you'll actually be following the path of the knife and the wood will lift up. If you don't cut with the knife first, what will happen is the outer edge will tear up as you chisel because the force will be too much. You want to keep that clean canal, and the canal only goes deep enough so that you can see the inner stem starting to poke through. You want to take that canal right down flush with the inner stem so that when you add the outer stem, you'll essentially be gluing one stem to the other one. You can see the stem clearly. It's kind of the same color as the cedar, but there's the stem poking through right there. And that's about as deep as you want to go. Otherwise, you might start tearing into the inside of the canoe a bit, which isn't the end of the world because you've got fiberglassing which will cover that up. But as much as possible, you want to avoid that. And you take that canal right down to the end, and the canal gets shallower and shallower due to the profile of the canoe until right about here, your cedar is flush with the inner stem. And that's fine. That's the way it should be. And then as a final stage, you fit your outer stem onto the canoe and see how it's fitting. You don't want to start gluing and epoxying the stem on yet because you want to set that stem in, and then you want to look for what kind of gaps you have along the edge. Now, if I press this in tight, I've got a pretty good fit here, but you'll notice that there's a tiny bit of a gap here. But on this side of the stem, it is nice and flush, as you can see, and you don't have that gap at all. Therefore, the front of the canoe is slightly off angle. So I want to take my sander and I want to take this side off a bit so that you don't have the gap on the other side and you've got exactly the same tightness on both sides. I want to do that before I screw and glue the outer stem on to the canoe. So I've got a nice clean profile and you can't see any gaps in there, and you don't have any unnecessary filling to do with epoxy after the fact. It's a lot easier to sand than it is to add epoxy, and it's also a lot more visually appealing. So there you see the outer stem fitted into the hull of the boat. This is of course going to be trimmed flush eventually with a plane to match the profile. It'll almost be down flush with the canoe at this point, and then it'll gradually rise. But at this point here, it'll be sticking out, and it'll also be shaped, and we'll see that in our next video. But that's the beginning stages of fitting your outer stem. Have a great day.